Okay, this is our last early Christian piece, and this is the Virgin Theotokos and Child between Saints Theodore and George. It is an icon. It dates between the 6th and 7th centuries CE, early 7th century. It is encaustic on wood, and it is located in the monastery of St. Catherine's, which is located on Mount Sinai in Egypt. And that becomes important later. So let me start off before I talk about this piece. I want to talk about what an icon is and about the iconoclastic controversy. So icons were very important to the Byzantine Empire. Its productions were considered a Byzantine specialty. And prior to the iconoclastic controversy, devout Christians would have these icons, and they were seen as images that were supposed to act as reminders to the faithful. They weren't intended to become sacred by themselves or holy by themselves, but by the 8th century, many people believed that these had very specific powers associated with them, and that was important because the Byzantine Empire becomes involved in a heated debate over icons. Some of them were worshipped as idols, and like not like the American Idol, but like an idol, which is because you are praying to this idol rather than God, that goes against one of the Ten Commandments. So, in order to stop this practice, the emperor banned all image production and even went so far as to destroy many of the iconoclasts, people against the use of icons. They destroyed many of the works of art and they stopped producing new pieces. As a result of the iconoclast controversy, almost all of the art from Byzantium between 500 and 726 is lost, and many of these Byzantine artists had to flee the empire and went to other parts of Europe, who actually welcomed them because of their technique and because of how gifted they were. And so we'll see some types of Byzantine art in areas in Greece and into Russia. And then on the other side, we also see it into Sicily and other parts of Italy that these artists had fled to. So we do see a Byzantine influence in Western European art during the Middle Ages. We'll talk about that in a future screencast. So the iconoclast controversy is considered the dividing period between the early and middle Byzantine period, and it was finally repealed in 843. And after that, pretty much every church and monastery was redecorated, but that was done in a new style, not the style that they had previously. And so this piece here survived the iconoclastic controversy, um, and this one is basically this is a icon was used in the Byzantium world to pray to Christ or to Mary and the saints while gazing at images of them on independent panels. So icons were accepted prior to the controversy as aids to meditation and prayer. This one survived because it's located in Egypt or on Mount Sinai, and by 843, or by the time this during the iconoclast controversy, this part of the Middle East was no longer part of the Byzantine Empire. It was actually under Islamic control. However, because it was in a remote and isolated part, and because of, you can see how it was walled in, the St. Catherine's was left as a Christian monastery. So this one survived because of its location. So Theotokos, the reason why we include that word there in red is it means Greek for bearer of God, and that would be Mary the Virgin. And we're seeing the Virgin seated. She's holding the Christ child, and she's flanked by two saints. We've got Saints George and Theodore, and they were considered warrior saints. And behind them are angels. And Um, it shows uh, also the angels are gazing upwards toward the hand of God, and light emanates from this and it falls onto the Virgin. So we're seeing this a new way of praying as you're praying to Mary, because she is supposed to be an intercessor or she's supposed to get involved. If you pray to her, she will intervene for you, on behalf of you, to her son Christ. And so so Mary is going to be a focal point of prayer that we'll see in other parts of the Christian faith as well. The Virgin is viewed as very powerful and ever forgiving, and you could count on her in your appeal to her divine Son for mercy, or on behalf of the devout and repentant worshipers. So in this piece, there is the Virgin in the center and Christ child on her lap, and the angels are painted with illusionism that renders them lifelike and three-dimensional in appearance. There's almost classical features in regards to the modeling on their faces. There is an attempt at spatial recession, and we see that specifically with the throne. You could tell that she's seated. So it's not quite as flat as the mosaics we have seen. This isn't a mosaic, by the way, but it's not quite as flat as the mosaics of Theodora and Justinian. However, we see similarities in that the saints don't quite have, they don't look like they're standing. You don't feel like there's weight under them. And so that makes it similar to them. The warrior saints look more stylized. There is barely a hint of any body form. Their faces are very tense and have frontal stares. The glances of all the figures are different. If you notice, we have Mary who's looking forward past the viewer, and that's as if she is seeing the future. And then Christ child, his gaze also looks away, and it can be interpreted as almost anticipating his fate, through his crucifixion. Saints Theodore and George look straight on at the viewer, and they're warrior saints, and they're depicted as in a stiff and hieratic way, like in a hierarchical scale almost, because it's almost like they're trying to engage the viewer and say, we are protecting the Theotokos and her child. And then the angels in the background, they look towards heaven. So there we see almost three different styles with these three groupings: Mary and the Christ child, the saints, and then the angels in the background. So it's been argued that they're painted by, possibly by different artists. And then again, the materials of this piece, just to remind you, encaustic on wood is a popular technique that was used, and it's where hot wax is mixed with pigment and then painted onto a wooden surface. And so that's why we do see some chipping, and it's not in the best shape, but it did survive the iconoclast controversy because of where it was located. And that is it for the Virgin Theotokos and child and the early Christian period. Up next will be the Islamic screencasts, and I will get to those tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.